everyone, and welcome to Pine Tree Live Peters Chevrolet Pregame Show. I'm Brett Conway, and I'm here with Pine Tree head football coach and assistant athletic director, Kerry Lane. Well, Kerry, first game is out of the way, and you came away with a win. That's got to be exciting. The kids are probably excited, but even more so, you know, kids always want something that they can hang their hat on, or in this case, hang their helmet on, and because they were the first to do something, and that really happened early in the season. First game. It's the first time in 21 years that Pine Tree did not allow a point to be scored against them in a varsity football game. So congratulations to them on that. They got to be excited about it and to get that out of the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to shut someone out, especially nowadays with the way the game's played. And last year, you know, we got up on several people early. And a lot of times when you do that, you let a lot of guys play and you kind of rotate in. So there's a lot of games where we probably could get a shutout in the past. But if you get the lead, you want to let everyone play, and you want that to be a good night for everyone. And so a lot of times I think you see that's the reason why you don't see a lot of shutouts. So, you know, to kind of be in the game, we pulled away from them late, and I think that's one reason why. But even when we rolled in our twos, they still kept them from scoring. That's the thing I was proud of. You know, it wasn't like it was a 7-0 game. You know, we were up 3 scores, and we rolled our twos in. They got to play some. They got to get some action, and we still kept them out of the end zone. So I was really proud of that.
Well, it was a good game, and being proud across the board, really, because offense and defense, and they had their moments, but they really played well. The defense, as we expected, would keep you in the game, certainly early, and with their play. And they had their issues here and there, especially in the second half. But and then offense, let's talk about offense first. 246 yards rushing, 95 yards passing. And on the passing, Lucas Branson, what can you say more? He put on a show the other night.
He had a good game. Lucas is a talented kid. He's an athletic kid. I'm not sure there's a kid on that side of the ball that practices harder than Lucas every day. So I was happy to see him, you know, have a good night because of that. You know, the plan going in was pretty simple with 11 new ones. We wanted to kind of limit the things that we did. We wanted to make sure the kids knew what they were doing. And Liberty Allo, they're very fast on defense. They're bringing a lot of people all the time. And so they kind of put you in a mode where you got to kind of defend instead of attack. And so I felt good about our defense. I felt good about us running the ball into the teeth of all those blitzes once we got settled down and got on our rules and did what we were supposed to do. And so, you know, I probably played a little too close to the vest as being the head coach. But at the same time, I wanted us to get a win. And I didn't want, you know, to have our sophomore quarterbacks back there with 8 guys coming all night, taking a beating. So we played it pretty close to the chest, kept it pretty simple, and came away with a win.
Well and simple, and kept the running game going. And when you talk running with Pine Tree, you're always going to have somebody that's got a lot of yards. And out of that 246 yards, Ethan Morgan, 18 carries, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns, longest run at 60 yards. So a great night from him. But, you know, we talked about that. He gets running. He gets his speed going at about the line of scrimmage. If he's got an opening, he sees it. And if that opening is there for him, and certainly on that 60-yard run it was, and as a matter of fact, on that run, we got to mention a couple of guys there, Bryceland Phillips and Cameron Turner. Those 2 guys there actually made that 60-yard run because Bryceland's assignment was to come from the left over to the right, and as soon as he turned the corner, he took out one of the defensive backs, and then Cameron was up, and he did his job because as soon as that back's out of the way, that's exactly when Ethan's picking up his speed, and he sees the hole, he goes, and there's an opening that's then made by Cam up there. He gets the kid out of the way, and that really opened up the run to get that 60 yards. Otherwise, it would have been like a 15-yard run. But, you know, kudos to Bryson and Cam for just a great blocking display there on that run, especially. So
you bet. It takes 11 pieces of the puzzle executing to reel off 60 yards.
It does. And you had some other good runs in the game. Nyland Taylor had a touchdown, 30 yards on his run. And, of course, Devontae Davis carried the ball. Tyrell Sparkman came in one run later on in the game, 8 yards. Good for him to come in cold and get that 8 run.
Yep.
So across the board, and the quarterbacks, Derek Williams came in, 4th quarter. First run, 1-yard touchdown run. He was probably excited about that.
Yeah,
you know,
I think he knew he was going to do that one.
kind of hard to keep him still. And then when he went back later on in the 4th quarter, you utilized him 2 ways, as a running back and as a little bit as a quarterback. But he's not afraid to run. And, I think like a 16-yard run, it took a pretty good pop at the end of it, gets right back up, goes back, and he's ready to go again. So
Yep.
kudos to him as well. Let's talk about the quarterbacks. You played DeKalin for about 98% of the game. He was 6 for 12. I think y'all had the control on the passing game. I think you wanted to go with the running, if I'm correct on that.
Yeah, definitely. We didn't, him being new and playing that style of defense where they're going to keep 2 over our receivers and just bring the rest of them, bringing 7. And so I really didn't want to put him in a situation where he's going to have to make whole bunch of tight throws and a whole bunch of pressure in his face early. And so we kept it pretty simple for him. He made a few mistakes that young guys make, but he's always got good eyes. And that's what I told our coaches when he come off the field and I talked to him. He made one really, really bad mistake and threw it right to a guy and just didn't see him. And when I talked to him about it, Coach, I just didn't see him. He had good eyes. He didn't make excuses. He didn't blame anyone else. He owned it. And he was never nervous or scared or nothing. He was ready to get back out there and play again. So I think that's a sign of a young man that's growing up. And anyone that's ever played quarterback at the varsity level knows those first couple of snaps, it moves pretty fast on you. So I think he handled it well, and he'll get better and better.
And that's one thing that we noticed up top is that he was very, very composed, very patient. And, when he moves, he doesn't look like he's moving fast, but he is. I think we discussed that one time. But very composed, very patient. For the most part, he had good protection from the offensive line. There were a couple of times where they were getting around the end, and the linebackers coming across, and he was just about to make a pass. And I think one time they batted the ball as his arm was going forward. Another time they hit his arm. And then when you look at his runs, he had one carry for, I believe, 25 yards. Yeah, 25 yards, and he had 32 total. And that was on 8 carries. So now if you take that 25 out, well, now you're down to 7 runs and 7 yards. So that, you're looking at 1 yard a carry. So, to me, I see that as being something on the front line. And when you look at that, you saw a lot of the blocking that allowed those kids to come around the corners and putting more pressure on him. So is that something that y'all looked at this week as far as the offensive line? Was that your biggest concern, or your blocking scheme?
Yeah, no doubt. That's always my biggest concern every week is the offensive line. And nothing happens without those guys. Those guys got a really hard job, and they got to be really good at it for us to function at all. So, yeah. And Liberty Outlaw too. They're bringing guys off the edge. They're bringing 2 off the edge, which isn't usually very sound. And every now and then they get away with it. And there's a couple of times there where, not DeKalin's fault, our fault. We didn't call protection the right way, or we didn't get him in the best situation to handle that. But anytime they're bringing 7 and you're blocking 6, they're going to get there. So it's easy to say, the O-line. From the stands, people go, well, the O-line needs to block. Well, when they're bringing 7 and 8, and you got 6 or 7 blocking, good luck. You just don't have enough. And so we knew they were going to do that. That's kind of how they play defense. And so we tried to limit that a lot. I think in the second half, we just settled in on we're going to run it right into the teeth of them and wear them down. And, I knew that was going to have to be the plan for them anyway. We should have worn them down in the mid-first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, not in the third quarter. So, but we gathered up and got rolling and ended up running the ball on them well and ended up, I think getting our kids comfortable and won the game.
They did. After the half, they looked like they settled. Even when your second string came in, they looked just really well composed for the first game of the year. Let's talk about defense. Of course, they did control the game, and I know that's something that y'all expected from them. And they had some great plays. Forced 2 fumbles, and there was one in particular. It was really, instead of a fumble, it was more like a pass. You had Dallas Dixon coming in on his side, and he actually, I believe, forced a fumble. He got there right at the time of the handoff and looked like he managed to get a hand in, and all of a sudden the ball's going up. And then you've got Yonner coming in from the other side. He's already in the backfield, and he's in the right place at the right time, but he sees the ball and stays with it. You've got him here. You've got Dalen Evans on the other side. They're both looking at the ball, but he stays with it, makes the reception, gets the recovery. So Great play from those 2 guys all night long, really.
Yeah.
They were playing their position real well. Your safeties look good. They were going to come out and test you because they're new back there. And Tyler Neal, and, they played great all night long. They were all over the field where they needed to be, covering their position. So you got to be pleased with that. Yeah,
no doubt. I think defensively it was a team effort. The most exciting thing about that game to me is when you watch the tape, it's not as clean as we could have been, but the effort is absolutely there. And we tell them all the time, you're never going to play perfect, but you should always play with perfect effort. And I think you saw 11 guys playing with perfect effort. Ahmad Washington, 255, 260 pounds, and he's running down balls on the sideline, from defensive tackle and playing hard. And Dalen Evans played really hard. Tyrese Jones always plays really hard. He probably played the best. I think he was our defensive player of the week. And, I was really proud of those kids, and creating turnovers is how you win the game. 78% of the time, if you win the turnover battle, you win the game. And that was big. And that really helped us out offensively because we were struggling early. And we got the ball on the 1 yard line off that one turnover and we're able to just go punch it in. And then they had another bad snap that led to us getting another short, really, really short field and punching it in again. So, yeah, they definitely led the way. I think they took the life out of Liberty Allo a little bit, which was good. It's what we needed them to do. And, we got to settle in a little faster on the other side of the ball and get it moving, keep them off the field. But they played a lot of snaps, and they played well, and they played hard. And, we blocked a punt. Cody Yonner blocked a punt. That's another big indicator in winning the game. When you want to go get it and you get a kid that playing with great effort and gets through there and gets a hand on it, and that just flips the field for you.
They had some passes and some gains, some running games. They had a quarterback that he'd like to do that little delayed run. They had some trouble with that. But one thing that was very evident about the defense, and this really goes back 2 years. This goes back to the first game at Marshall 2 years ago. It wasn't the first game, but the first game that really turned things around for Pine Tree when they played from whistle to whistle, and especially the defense. And one thing that was evident last night, first game of the season, they get a big gain against them or they get a 30-yard pass against them, but they get back in there, they group together, and they go back and they stop them.
Yeah, just keep playing.
They just went back at it. He didn't have any that coming off the field, dragging your nose or whatever,
Yeah, we better not.
And you don't see that anymore. And that's a credit to you.
Well,
it's a credit to
it's still there. We fight it every day.
Well, but
it's still there.
To get out in the game, you don't see it at the stadium, and people notice that, at least we do.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that change. So, well, special teams, and talk a little bit about kicking. I know that you had a couple of extra points that didn't make it through the uprights.
Yeah.
But I see a silver lining there because I'm watching the kickers, and what I saw as far as extra point was a strong leg and an awful lot of velocity coming off that kick, because you got three people on that. You got the center, and you got the guy holding it to get that ready for him to get the foot into it. But if you watch his kicks, a lot of velocity, and they were going back past the track. So, I'm guessing Coach Barron is working with the kickers on those, and he's real good about doing that. They get his, they'll get his aim down and everything, but you have to look at the distance he's getting on the extra points and think, if we get into a field goal position, we do have a kid that's got the leg for it.
Yeah, Edgar does have a good leg. It's a strong leg. It's his first time doing it on Friday night, just like a lot of the other ones out there. And everyone can say what they want to say, but until you've been under those lights in that moment for the first time, it's new. And I think he was a little nervous. And usually when you got a kid with a strong leg that's pulling the ball, that's what it is. It's nerves. And so and that's exactly what he did. He pulled the ball. He just was shaking it because he was trying to hit it too hard. And, and it's a little different. Those soccer guys, the way they aim, the way they kick a soccer ball is a little different than a football. Coach Barron does a good job translating the two, getting them working, and they're out here every day working on it. And he'll be fine. That's what I told him Friday night too. He'll be fine. He's got a strong enough leg. He's a calm kid. He doesn't get too worked up. But the first time you go out there, it is a little nervous. I was proud of Amari, Gary. He's our holder. People don't realize how hard of a job that is. Mm-hmm. And we want our kickers going fast. We want the time of that kick down low. And so our kickers move quick. They move when the ball snaps. So Amari's got to do a great job of getting the ball and getting it on the block. And he did. Did a really good job. Landon Griffin's our snapper. He did a good job getting it back there. Those are two jobs that most people think happen automatically, and they absolutely do not. Snapping the football is not the hardest thing to do, but it's not easy, especially in a pressure situation. And then catching that snap and getting it on that block quickly, so the timing is good. Those two things they do. That's why we do it almost every day. Snappers snap every day, and holders need to hold almost every day. And so I was proud of that. We didn't punt the ball at all. Hope we don't. I hope that trend continues. But, obviously, I believe in our punter. I think we'll snap well when it comes time for that. We did try an onside kick that was there that really we should have executed, and we had a bad kick. And so that's something that Edgar's got to do a better job of. I tell them all the time, I'm going to take chances because that's who I am. Y'all's job is to make me look smart. And And so I told him, man, you didn't make me look very smart right there. So he kicked it right to the guy and kicked it way too hard. So, but like I said, it's his first time doing it. He'll get better. And the thing I like was he was kind of like DeKylan. He knew that he didn't do as good as he could, but it didn't rattle him. It didn't faze him. I think, knowing the type of kid he is, he's ready for get another opportunity to go out there and do it again.
Well, and on the onside kick, it was there, like you say, and he just didn't get that one bounce.
Yeah, he hit it way too hard, and he hit it right at the guy.
And that's something that they'll work on, and certainly he'll get. Deep snapper, same deep snapper that you.
Yep.
Okay, and he's doing real well.
Yep,
Yeah, that was the thing
Landon
last year.
Griffith's deep snapper.
So, good to look forward for that. Well, this week we've got Lindale coming in, and they had a close game this past week against Kaufman. But what do you expect? Tell us a little bit about Lindale. They match up. When you look at their roster, they've got a little bit more size as far as weight goes on some kids, but their ratio of senior to junior to sophomore is almost like Pine Tree. It almost matches up.
Yeah.
Exactly. But a little bit about Lindale and how y'all are preparing for them.
Yeah, so they got 7-6 back off the team that played for the state championship last year, and that's returning starters. And so there's a lot of kids that played a lot of ball. And yeah, you got to be good to play for the state championship, but the thing that people don't realize, everybody in your program gets better when you play 16 weeks because everybody's got extra weeks of practice, and so they got an extra month and a half of practice that a lot of people didn't get and playing those extra games, and that's how you get better. And so, yeah, I think they did lose a couple of key pieces to graduation last year, but the bulk of their team is back off a group that played for the state championship. And, I think they're big up front on the offensive line. I think they're well coached on the offensive line. They do a good job. You can tell they know what they're doing, where they're going. I think their quarterback's a good player. He's back off that team, threw for a lot of yards last year. They have a slot receiver that's a really good player. I think they're just a very, very solid football team, very well coached football team. On defense, they're going to be where they're supposed to be. You can tell they believe in what they do. They've had the same defensive staff there for a while now, and they do a good job. I mean, their kids believe in it. They play hard. They're one of those teams that if you're going to beat them, you're going to have to beat them. They're probably not going to beat themselves very much. You're going to have to go out, and you're going to have to take it from them, and it's going to be a fight while you do it. So to me, it's a great game to play in the preseason. They're going to be where they're supposed to be. They're going to try to stop the things that you do the best, make you play left-handed, which as a coaching staff and as a team should make us better. And hopefully we make them better as well.
Well, certainly their quarterback, I believe he's 6'5", so he can see down the field pretty well. He's going to find the receivers. But he likes to move around also. When you look at their team, you look at their offense, it's very similar to Pine Tree. And the defense is the same. They're going to come up with 3 up front, or they're going to go with 4 up front. And they like to send the backs in just like y'all do. So it'll be an interesting game. It'll certainly be an exciting game and a good challenge.
It will be. It's a good football team.
So, well, up next is Pine Tree and Lindale, and kickoff is at 7:30, and we'll be live at 7:15 from Pirate Stadium. And if you can't make the game, remember you can always find the streaming link at ptisd.org. Just go to the Pine Tree Athletics page, and you'll be able to find the link there. As always, we want to thank Peter Chevrolet for making this show possible and also making our broadcast possible on Fridays at the game. Well, I'm Brett Conway, and I'm with head coach Kerry Lane. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week on Pine Tree Live.
What you know about rolling down in the